Hey! I think carrots really suit Kiki.
I look like one on my head.
They do look great. You look a little bit like the old-fashioned Ant-Man when he had the old ants. Did you see?
Yeah!
Oh, yeah. Sorry to have kept you all in total suspense for so long, but we wanted to give the filmmakers of Avengers Endgame the respect we felt they deserved.
Yes.
We know lots of spoiler reviews have gone out. I personally don't think any should have gone out for the first week. Just in case someone stumbled across one, don't you think?
Well, I mean, there's still people now that still haven't seen it.
So many people haven't seen it. Avengers Endgame. It's the end of a 21 movie franchise moment. Not the end of the franchise, Marvel, obviously. We're about to enter the next stage. So it's not the end of Marvel, but it's definitely the end of a certain chapter.
The Avengers chapter.
Avengers chapter. But this is our chance, really, girls, just to let rip.
Yeah.
Let rip. Say what the hell you want.
There isn't really a way of doing a review of this film without
You
spoiling
can't.
it.
You can't.
So.
I thought one of the strongest scenes in the entire film was the first scene. Do you agree?
That was a very good way of beginning the film.
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to.
She just spelled. That's fine. I'm going to click my fingers.
Yeah, so like the first scene was because the whole time in Infinity War everybody's like, where's Hawkeye? Well, not everybody, but I was like, where's Hawkeye?
Well, even Jeremy Renner was like, where the hell's Hawkeye?
And he wasn't in it at all. So the first scene shot
Yeah.
is of Hawkeye with his family.
And I thought that scene was shot and directed and edited beautifully. The close-up of his hand.
Because what was so horrible about the scene as well is because you're watching it and you're like, oh, really cute, it's with his family, but you're like, I so know what's going to have to happen for him to fit in with the storyline of Infinity War. Someone's going to go. Spoiler. His family will
His family vanish.
flake off.
But they all just flake off like bad eczema.
No, it's the thing of like, because obviously he didn't know what had happened.
No.
So for him, he didn't notice that those bits of flaky bits with their skin. He was just being like, where the hell are they gone?
Did you, if Thanos clicked his fingers now, do you think, Kiki, you'd be one of the ashy people or one of the real people that stay alive?
I'd want to be one of the ashy people.
I think I might want to be ash.
Yeah, same.
I want to be flaky. And I'm being a bit sort of stupid with this, but I thought that the first scene was so powerful. In a weird way, it gave us the best this film could become, because I thought this film was at its best when we were dealing with the real emotions of these characters that we've seen across so many films. So, small examples of that are, this was my favourite ever Captain America performance.
Yeah.
And I thought that was because we saw the human Captain America. I've got goose pimples actually saying that. I almost felt like crying. But I'm going to stop.
Because I watched it again last night.
Yeah, Maddie's seen it twice.
And I preferred Captain America a lot this time because in all of the other ones he's just been really... I felt sorry for him really because I really like Chris Evans as a person.
Yes.
And obviously in Fantastic Four he played Human Torch.
That's right, yeah.
And Human Torch is the opposite of Captain America. And I've always found it a shame that he's not been given more to do.
I agree.
He kind of stands around and goes buh.
Yeah.
But in this one I felt like he was given a little bit more to do.
Yeah, a bit more to do.
Which I liked. Like he had like the odd funny line even,
Yeah.
and it wasn't cringe.
No, it wasn't cringe,
funny.
and he had an ability to laugh and stuff. What did you've been a huge critic of Captain America, Kiki.
I hate him, but I like him. I liked him in Endgame.
Yeah, I liked him in Endgame.
And he used to ruin other characters' jokes.
Yes.
Because, you know, Iron Man and him have all this beef, and Iron Man is kind of like a dry sense of humour.
Yeah.
Whenever he'd be funny in the other Avengers films, like Captain America just slam it down with some beef.
What happened to Robert Downey Jr. at the beginning?
Skinny.
He looked like he was ill.
Well, he was supposed to.
No, I know.
He's not eaten in ages.
But do we think he was CGI'd into thinness, or do you think he actually took a
he was
sushi
actually
diet?
thin because I saw a selfie that Gwyneth Paltrow posted, I think,
Really?
of them shooting that scene and he's in it and he's got all those the bony look to his chest.
And surprisingly, he was with Nebula.
Yeah, I love
I
that
liked
scene.
That scene was
Yeah,
great.
when
What were
they're
they doing?
Thinking that
They're
she's getting really angry and stuff.
Yeah, she was getting really angry, and I liked the fact that she was almost feral in it. She was like, I just don't get it, and he was, and it was very Guardians-y, wasn't it? I liked that scene.
really liked it.
But then I got really annoyed very quickly.
Oh,
Because yes,
Captain Marvel.
yeah, thank you, yeah, Captain. Now I have a massive problem with Captain Marvel. I mean, a massive problem, even bigger than I had with her in Captain Marvel.
What was her hair?
Oh, when it was short.
That's one of them. It's like she's inherited Captain America's terrible
hair. It's that
hair.
funny line she was like, I won't have time to do it, and then Rocket Raccoon goes, well, are you going to get another haircut?
I mean, I hope Bradley Cooper saw her and went, we've got to put that line in there.
Yeah.
Because it was diabolical. No, but that wasn't my major beef.
Yeah.
My major beef was, right, She zooms like a sort of nuclear warhead through space.
Yeah.
She's so supremely powerful. Rescues Iron Man, who's like, you know, when is he ever that close to death? And she does it so easily and then says, oh, well, you know, I could do this all the time, but I've got a million other planets to look after.
Yeah.
It kind of, for me, it punctured and ruined all the superhero-ness of our
It kind of
superhero.
felt like they, although none of us like her, but I think they should have had her in it a bit more because it kind of felt like they were just rushing her.
That's very true. That's very
I personally
true.
don't even think that. I think she just shouldn't have been in it at all.
I know. I mean, like, is...
Did she
Didn't
need
necessarily.
to?
Well, there was that bit.
Well, did she need to? Exactly.
At
That's a
the
good
end,
question.
At the end, she did because she destroyed the entire ship.
Yeah.
But part of me is like, why didn't you do that sooner?
Well, that's my point. The only thing that Captain Marvel serves to do now is raise the question: why didn't Nick Fury ever call upon her in the past? I mean, it kind of, in a weird way, I think Captain Marvel is where the Marvel franchise is a little bit coming apart at the seams. Sorry,
No,
guys.
because remember in Captain Marvel she said only call me if it's an emergency.
Well, that's
There's been a few pretty damn
That's
big
quite a big
emergencies with the planet
emergency.
falling apart and
No,
death.
yeah, but he
No.
called her when they were starting disappearing.
Sure, but you sort of think,
But she
well,
wasn't there, was she?
on the scale of
dropped-
emergencies.
She dropped down Iron Man from space,
Yeah.
buggered off for majority of the film, came back 5 minutes before it ended.
Anyway, I had a major problem with her because this is not, and I hasten to add, because there's a lot of hate out there being aimed at Captain Marvel for all the wrong reasons. This isn't about her being Brie Larson. I love Brie Larson as an actress. This isn't about her being a female superhero. I want female superheroes. I want them all to be female if necessary. It's about her, the point of her in the story. I just thought, in a weird way, she sort of almost made everyone rescuable.
Yeah.
So you've got this situation where really, is it that dangerous? Is this really going to happen? Because really, Captain Marvel can kind of just sort of like, and then she landed with the ship.
I know.
You don't save Tony Stark like a baby in a cradle.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Anyway, so then we were introduced to Thanos.
We weren't-
Ballsack Brolin, as I call him. Ballsack Brolin.
Well, basically, you said you didn't like Captain Marvel. But
Yes.
You didn't properly say what she did. So Iron Man and Nebula.
Well, she saves them.
Yeah, Iron Man and Nebula were stuck in their ship because
Yeah.
they were the last ones left on that planet when
Yeah.
everybody disappeared. And she came and saved them,
And
brought
brings them
down,
back to the other
and
remaining
they had
Avengers.
The conversation about the whole finding Thanos.
Yeah,
Blah, blah, blah.
finding Thanos.
And then they go to Thanos' garden.
Now, what I like about Thanos is he's sorted out world strife. He's half the population. He's made the universe manageable. He's got his little plot of land. Yeah, he's what?
Little farm.
He's got his little farm.
Yeah.
He's got an allotment.
It's like Don Cheadle says in it. They go, where did he go? And then Nebula's like, he always talked about going to the garden. And then Don Cheadle's like, oh, that's cute. Thanos has a retirement place.
Thanos has a retirement place. But not only was he a gardener, we've got Hawkeye in the garden with his kids. Iron Man has got an allotment out on his gaff as well. He had a nice big garden too. They're all becoming gardeners. I love this. So Thanos is there hanging out, just picking his fruit, picking his veg, putting it in a
He's also,
basket.
and you can also see that half of his body is totally demolished.
Yeah, half his body's pretty
By the
mashed
radiation.
up by doing that. That's quite good, isn't it? So they all pile down.
They find where Thanos is in his garden. They go. Captain Marvel slams into him, gets him by the neck. Don Cheadle or something gets his arm. They ask him where the stones are, and he said that he destroyed the stones with the stones.
Jesus.
And basically, Thor just chops his head off because Thor feels like he's failed already because he's the one that had the chance to kill him before he snapped his fingers, but he didn't get the right body.
The fact that all of this catastrophe is Star-Lord's fault, people are kind of not saying anything about, are they?
Oh, and Star-Lord, yeah.
Yeah, Star-Lord,
It's his
what
fault
an
as well.
absolute numpty he was.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing, so Thanos' head comes off, so I'm sorry, you've seen it a second time. My first time, I have to say, not only was I annoyed with Captain Marvel, then at that point I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I've lost Ballsack Brolin.
I was glad. What do you mean?
Oh, you've got to keep Thanos going, he's the greatest
but
villain
it
invented.
was obvious that was not the end of Thanos.
No, you're absolutely right. But I did for a minute worry that they'd done what they did with Snoke in The Last Jedi, killed one of the greatest villains ever created. I was like, oh, flipping heck. So we're going to have to go a long period of time. Now, this is where I thought this film was so strong, was we then had the 5 years later interlude.
Yes.
And I thought in that 5 years, once we went 5 years, a real sadness settled. Because I thought, Jesus Christ, nothing's going to shift here, didn't you? I thought this isn't unusual because We're now, and that's when we really did see all of our characters, all our superheroes as real people.
Yeah, and that's when Paul Rudd comes back.
That's right, that's when Paul Rudd comes back. But I thought we saw Black Widow. I thought Scarlett Johansson had some very powerful scenes there.
Yeah.
I thought Chris Evans was very powerful as Captain America. He looked very sort of depressed and down and grief-stricken. And of course, all the way through this, we then are introduced to the Hulk, who's managed to he's sort of in a sort of...
calm.
Well, he's managed to be Hulk, but be really calm as Hulk.
Which I just love. I got a feeling that the Hulk in Avengers Endgame is what Mark Ruffalo's like in real life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
I always think of him in that bipolar role that he played. The Hulk is literally bipolar in he's all moods at once, isn't he?
Yeah. Paul Rudd comes back because obviously he's been stuck in the quantum realm, but everybody thought that he vanished with everybody else because he went at the same time. So he manages to come back, and I really like how it's a rat that brings him back. A rat steps on the button. And,
yes. Oh, yes. It was so accidental.
Yeah. So he comes back, and then he goes to Avengers Shield.
Yeah.
Because he's been missing for 5 years, and they're like, "You've been gone for 5 years. How did
He's
you
like,
come
"No, I
back?"
didn't."
He said, "Well, the thing was, where I was, it was only 5 hours."
Yeah.
So he said, you know, maybe because of the different time. The time differences, we could go back to a time before Thanos and all of that. And I love the scene where it's like, so Captain America's like, so you're basically saying a time machine. And Paul Rudd's like, no, of course I'm not saying a time machine. That's stupid. Yes, I'm saying. I'm saying a time machine.
And there's a lot of riffing there, wasn't there, about Back to the Future throughout the film?
That's where it goes. So Back to the Future's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Paul Rudd was one of the absolute knockout strengths. He was my favourite character. He delivered a lot of the comedy. I thought he did a really good job of being the ordinary guy in amongst extraordinary individuals. Yeah. And even though obviously he's got his superhero traits, he really does play that everyday guy so brilliantly.
He does. Yeah.
And of course they go and they try and implore Iron Man, who's now settled down. They've got to try and convince Iron Man. I tell you what though, another little bit of disappointment crept in there. I thought, here's the thing. I thought in the year that we had between the two films, I thought, well, it's going to have to be time travel. And then you'd sit there and I'd often be driving to work and I'd be thinking, oh, I bet it's time travel they're going to have to travel back. And then I thought, no, they're going to be cleverer than that. I thought time travel, when I realised they were going to time travel, I just thought, well, it's a bit obvious.
Oh, I think you're being too harsh on it.
Am I?
Yeah.
Is that too harsh?
It was obviously going to be the time stone and everything. I knew it was going to. It had to be the only way it was going to happen was going back in time. And when they said it, I was like, yes!
No, it was a relief that we were going to get them all back. I mean, as soon as they said time travel, I kind of knew where the film was going to go there.
Yeah.
Do you not agree? I kind of knew they were going to get back. They were going to intercept things.
I really liked the whole time traveling.
But what I really liked about the time travel thing was that they did go back. They did do all of that. But in going back, Thanos came forward.
Basically, one of my favourite scenes
in
the thing. So basically, they've gone to Iron Man and they asked if he could help because Iron Man's really smart. And Iron Man's like, I've got a child, I got lucky, no.
Yeah, which is fair enough, because would you want to throw it all away?
No, if you've got everything, but then at the same time, they're like your family too, aren't they, the Avengers?
Yeah, exactly.
So, Hulk tries to make one.
Oh,
and
yes.
they do a tester on Paul Rudd.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And he basically goes in, Paul Rudd, and they bring him back out, and you're like, oh, he's fine. And he's like a teenage version of himself, and they're like, oh shit, wait, no, carry on. And they did it again, he comes back as an old man, and they're like, oh, who's that? And he's like, it's me. And then they do it again, and he's a baby.
That's so
and then
funny.
They're like, and then Captain America's like, that's not Scott, this baby Scott. And then Hulk's like, he'll grow. And they're like, no, bring Scott
we
back.
haven't got time.
And then Scott comes back and he said, somebody peed in here. And I don't know if it was old me or baby me or just me. I
mean, I thought Paul Rudd had some of the best lines. I mean, he had all the Star-Lord content, didn't he?
He was really, really good.
He was really funny.
Meanwhile, Iron Man has actually figured out how to do time travel the right way.
And then I thought what was really clever was this film manages to take us on a bit of a journey through the old films, quite literally.
Yeah, that's what I loved about the time travel.
Yeah, and I thought at that point, for me, the time travel became quite a rich process. Because then at that point, you're like, oh my God.
You're watching it and you're like, oh my God, like when they go back to... was it the first Avengers?
Yes.
And it's like that famous shot of them all in a circle and it goes around them, and they're all like
by
so
Grand
young
Central
and how they were
Station.
in the first one, and it's just mental. And then when you see Hulk destroying things like really aggressively,
and he's oh God, and he's really embarrassed about his
and then he
former
tries to do it,
self.
he goes It's like trying to act
true.
right.
Yeah, no, embarrassment about their former selves was very good.
Yes, it's really
But at this point, in terms of the time travel and everything, before we do time travel, they have refound Thor. Now, one of the other strong comedy characters for me in this film was Thor.
Yeah.
And of course, they find Thor sitting in a sort of small shack on the coast of Asgard with his buddy from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, the rock guy.
Rock guy, who's voiced by Taika Waititi, isn't he, the director? He's sitting there playing his video game, and what has Thor developed?
It's a bit of a tummy.
Bit of a belly.
It's so
Fat
funny.
Thor.
It's so funny. All my friends are like, I'm only seeing it to go and see Thor, and I was like,
Oh, what? They're wanting to see it because of strong Thor.
Yeah,
oh,
because
right.
everybody loves a topless Thor shot, but it's just being fat.
Well, I love the fact that they've sort of vaporized the idea that you can go and sort of just idolize Thor.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a proper paunch on him. I mean, the Russo brothers
made him really human, though, didn't
made him really human. The
Practically.
Russo brothers said they were looking for relatability throughout all the characters.
Yeah.
And their major characters for relatability was they knew they had it with Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
But they often felt they had it with Star-Lord and wanted it somewhere else. So I think they parked it in Thor.
Yeah.
So the idea that a Nordic god actually would rather have a can of Foster's. And there's a lovely moment where, in one of their many time travel moments, and what I liked was not only did all the characters travel back into the earlier films, but they travelled back to see many of their sort of old loves with Captain America, or Iron Man sort of met his father. I thought that was a really nicely drawn scene. I thought that was clever. And of course Thor sees his mum. And there's a scene where he's hiding in Asgard, the halls of Asgard, and he literally, you see a can of Foster's get shot.
and he's like, I think I'm having a panic attack.
Rocket Raccoon slaps
Oh
him.
yeah. And I think what they're really good at on Marvel is that they know how to, they'll take a joke to the first stage, and where many films would just leave it at that.
It's like,
no, I really am having a panic.
Yeah, and that Rocket Raccoon's giving him a pep talk and he starts crying, and then
Yes.
Raccoon's like, you crying? And he goes, no.
Yes. I thought Rocket Raccoon was very good.
Yeah.
And it's a bit when they were trying to convince Thor to like go with them, you know, Hulk and everything. And they're like, he was like, I know you like to think I'm cooked up in here and just, dwelling in my own sorrows, but we're having a great time, aren't we? And they're like, and then Rocket Raccoon goes, we've got beer on this ship. And he goes, what kind?
That's very good.
Gone.
So would you say that the humour on a second watch, would you say the film was funnier than you remembered it the first time?
Yeah, because I definitely, when I saw it the first time, I was really stressed out and tense the whole time.
Yes.
The first half wasn't boring, but no major things happen in the first half of the film. So when you watch it the first time, that whole time you're like, what is going to happen and when's it going to happen?
Yeah.
When you're watching it a second time, you can really enjoy the humour because you're like, I know what's going to happen later, sort of thing. So it was really funny. I'm really glad it managed to keep its comedy, because I was worried. Because although Infinity War had moments of really funny bits in it, it wasn't all together. It didn't have laughs throughout.
No, absolutely.
And I was worried this was just going to go really, really dark, and I wanted the last Avengers to have a bit of.
Yeah, and I think it had a good balance. How were you finding it? Did you find the build up too long? Because you're quite critical of films that take too long to get their message across. Did you feel it was lasting too long?
No, because I think the jokes were so good.
They were, weren't they?
It was just really nice, because obviously it was ages ago.
Yeah.
Last year. So it was really nice getting to see them.
Getting to know them all again. Yeah, absolutely, and getting to know their personalities.
I know a few people that were bored.
Were they? What, at the beginning of Endgame?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know a few people that were like, it was dragging on a bit too much.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
Just part of the journey. I was kind of like,
Well, I'm all up for. I really liked, as I said before, seeing all of our superhero familiar faces and household names being put into very uncomfortable, everyday, depressing situations. So I liked all of that. I did think that overall, I thought the film was probably about 15 to 20 minutes too long, and I thought if they were going to cut it anywhere, they could have trimmed it a little bit at the front there. The cleverest part of the time travel thing for me was where Thanos. And I thought, again, Josh Brolin played it so well behind his ballsack chin. But he played it so well because the moment he realises that Nebula, there's something up with Nebula in his realm or time, and then he starts to think, hang on a minute, I'm not seeing what I've done, I'm seeing what I've already done. I've already done what, the mission, he realises quite quickly that he's already accomplished his mission.
I was so panic-stricken when that all was happening.
The bit where what's her name, the blue one?
Nebula.
When she's with the
Don Cheadle.
Yeah, and they were watching Star-Lord dance, and they were like, "Here's an okay," and then they like skipped him just singing in silence because he could only hear it.
Yes.
And then they just go bang in his head, and he just falls back at the same time.
What I loved about that scene was that Star-Lord was singing without the accompaniment of the music.
Yeah.
It just sounded awful.
And then Don Cheadle's like, so he's an idiot.
Yeah, no, that was nice. So
But I was so, oh my god, I was getting so, when I knew as soon as, Nebula's, the Nebula from the past was showing what the future one was seeing, I was like, great.
Yeah.
Great.
And I thought that was great. And then, of course, Thanos sending the old
really clever way.
Nebula. It was really clever. And I thought that kind of intersection of times and Thanos, again, doing it without any stress. It's very chill. It's just like, send her up, coming down, coming in, I'm here, boom. But hang on a minute. Well, before we get to the end of the film, of course, the first sacrifice that goes is Black Widow.
I was very shocked by that.
I was surprised.
I tell you, when I knew that what was going to happen was going to happen was... Because obviously we know that Gamora got killed. And I was like, oh wait, they're going to get the Soul Stone. So one of them is going to have to die.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking maybe they'll find a way of getting it without having to kill one of them. But I was like, no, they're not.
No.
And it's going to sound bad, but part of me was hoping it would be Hawkeye. more than her, but then obviously he had family.
Yeah.
But I love her. She's.
Well, they are making a Black Widow film, which I can only assume is going to be earlier in her life, because her life is now dead.
But
apparently they shot.
She was the last one, because the whole build up to Endgame, everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be Captain America." It's
yes,
gonna be Iron
it
Man,
was.
It's
Yeah.
Thor, and nobody suspected Black Widow.
No, that's true. And part of me wondered whether they were sort of talking about the Black Widow film as a way to kind of, get you off the trail.
I felt bad because I didn't find it that sad.
No, funnily enough, you should say that. I was going to be much sadder if I do have a crush on Jeremy Renner, so I didn't want him to go. But apparently when they shot that scene, they shot both endings. So, both characters were thrown down. Oh. And neither of them knew which one it was going to be.
Oh, wow.
Which is quite a nice detail.
So obviously they get all of the stones and they make a glove out of it, and Hulk is the only one that can snap his fingers because he's big enough to handle the radiation.
And he can suffer the radiation, yeah, you're right.
So he clicks his fingers. We aren't sure if anything's happened because it's quiet for quite some time, and then Jeremy Renner's wife starts ringing him and you're like, oh my god, they're back. But as Thanos shoots all of them, Paul Rudd was standing right by a window and he's like, oh wow guys, look outside, and then one of the massive bombs hits.
Yes.
Oh my god, is he dead? There was no way he would have survived that.
That scared me so much when that happened.
Honestly, and I was like, so basically, as soon as they snap their fingers and bring everybody back, Thanos comes from the past and brings his entire army. Captain America picks up Thor's hammer.
That's right, that was a big moment.
I felt like that was a bit rushed, because I felt like there was no other way of saving Thor for that scene. They just thought, let's just make him...
Well, I think what you're picking up on is what a number of fans have picked up on, is that they were finding solutions to story holes, and they were trying to quickly fix them all the time. But what did you feel when we saw all of the characters who'd been vaporized in Infinity War re-emerge? It was a nice moment, wasn't it?
I was crying with joy.
It was a good moment.
It's the way they step out as well, because it was like, it's that bit where it's just Captain America that's still standing and his shield's all broken and he's just looking at Thanos, and Thanos' immense army is behind him, and you're like, no way. No way.
Yeah.
They're all gonna die. And then he's just quietly, just so silently, Black Panther just walks towards him and you're like,
oh my god!
And then all the portals open and they all come through.
Yeah.
And then Captain America's like, Avengers, assemble! And then you're like,
it was a big moment.
Ran at it. Oh my god! Woo! And it was when Spider-Man and Iron Man saw each other again, and I was like,
that was
the father-son relationship is just too much.
But it was at that very point, and that's why it's good that you've mentioned that. Is at that point that I thought, right, hang on a minute, this film will have to deliver us something that leaves us feeling shit leaving the cinema. Who's it gonna be? I fully was expecting it to be Captain America. We'd had Black Widow, and I was thinking, Captain America. I think Iron Man might be holding on. But of course, Iron Man, what happens?
Iron Man takes the glove from Thanos, because Thanos was about to make it all happen again. And he clicks his fingers, Thanos' army disappears and everything, but he's an ordinary man who cannot handle the amount of radiation, and he dies.
How did you feel last night? Were you crying again last night?
I was crying just as much.
Were you?
I was screaming into my sleeve.
Oh.
He was the first love of my life.
He was.
I had the fattest crush on Iron Man.
How does it make you feel now thinking about the actual fact that Iron Man isn't coming back?
It was yesterday was the first release of the first Iron Man.
Oh, it was the anniversary of the first...
Yeah, I saw the video of them all cheering for it,
Oh.
the cast.
I mean, I have to confess, it's one of those moments, like for me, the equivalent was when Han Solo was struck down by Kylo Ren. The end of an entire chapter of my childhood.
Yeah, mine was...
Happened.
I was in tears when Spider-Man ran up to him and was like, no, stay.
Yeah, no, it was very
I tell you
sweet.
what really cracked me up is when Gwyneth Paltrow goes, "It's okay, you can rest now."
Oh.
And as soon as he dies, she goes, she like starts crying, and I was like, "Oh my god, I physically cannot take this amount of depression and stress.
No.
My body can't handle it." And what pissed me off the most about it was that Iron Man clicked his fingers, but I bet Captain Marvel could have done it and it wouldn't have killed her.
That's true.
Why didn't she
Captain
do
Marvel
it?
take the bloody...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's made of stronger stuff than radiation.
I wouldn't have cared as much if she died.
I have to confess, I think Captain Marvel is a fly in the ointment. She's confused the whole process, really. On the one hand, she can do everything and anything to anyone and save everything.
On the other hand, she does nothing.
And on the other hand, she does absolutely nothing.
Yes, when she was like earlier in the film, she was like, I have to go and like save these other planets.
Yes.
And was like, what other one? She was like, devour the planets.
Yeah, she said it in a way like, there are more interesting franchises elsewhere that I'm looking after. Well, if there are Captain Marvel, I want to see the bloody films of them.
Yeah, that really annoying bit at the beginning where they're like, "Where are you going?" She was like, "To kill Thanos." It's like,
Yeah.
don't just go off and kill Thanos.
Yeah, if it was that easy, why have we lost
Why
everyone?
did you not do it before?
Exactly. Well, so her character, not Brie, not the fact that she's a woman.
No, I like Brie.
Captain Marvel's character, I think, is a weak, wrong step in the Marvel franchise. I think it's a misstep. I also thought I thought Robert Downey Jr. played his death incredibly well.
Realistic. So
I thought
realistic.
that blank,
He didn't make a sound.
and that sort of slight, as you hear, is the case.
He looked
Hallucinogenic.
shocked. He looked shocked.
I'm Iron Man, and then
Oh yeah, because the whole time Thanos says, "I am inevitable. I am inevitable. I am inevitable."
I am a
And when
ballsack.
Iron Man does it, goes, "I am Iron Man."
And there's a great story behind that. That line that Robert Downey Jr. delivers wasn't written in the script, wasn't decided by the Russo brothers, and didn't come from Robert Downey Jr. They were all in the edit, and at that very moment where he goes to, click his finger and says what he says, there was a feeling in the edit suite that they needed him to say something.
Yeah.
He's a wisecracker, isn't he, all the time?
Yeah.
And it was the editor, the physical editor of the films, who's done all three of the Avengers films. 4 of them, is it now? He said, why don't we just go full circle on this? Why don't we take him back to one of the first lines he said when he said, "I am Iron Man"? Just have him saying, "I am Iron Man." Yeah. And literally, the Russo brothers were in the edit. They leapt up, fell upon the editor, said, "Right, call Robert Downey Jr. now. We need to shoot this." And then the whole visual effects team had to crack in.
It's amazing.
But
I thought that was a great line, but loads of my friends said they cringed.
Oh, did they?
oh no.
But so... Okay, and so that's the end of Iron Man, and that's kind of towards the end of the film. Although we have Captain America,
Funeral.
well, we have Iron Man's funeral,
It's the
and
bit
Where they're
where
all
they're
standing.
and when they're watching his message, and he says "Love you 3000" because that's what his daughter said to him earlier in the film.
don't.
Nan just went into her hands and was like,
Did you?
It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And then they'd sent Captain America, decided to head off back, hadn't he, with the stones.
He had to return all the stones
That's
back
right.
to where they were, otherwise it would have messed
history.
Messed up history and everything.
That's
And
Captain America there.
It was really weird though, wasn't it? Because for the people that had sent him there, it was 5 seconds.
Yes.
So he could take as much time as he wanted.
Yeah.
So he comes back as an old man.
Yeah, so Captain America doesn't actually die, but he does effectively become so what? We lose him to old age.
He has died.
Well, he's dead.
Yeah, it's implied that he's dead.
It's implied that he's dead.
like-
Yeah, he's so
and
old.
Now, and what pissed me off the most about that is that Falcon is now Captain America.
So Falcon is Captain America, and the Tessa, what's her face? Tessa Thompson is now head of Asgard.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me as much.
Well, I know something that really bothers Kiki. What? Thor is now on the Guardian.
So annoying.
Now, apart from
Now we're all fans of Thor, but you don't want him to join the Guardians.
It's just like I feel like he's gonna take it all, and he's gonna they're gonna try and make him funnier than
Right.
the others. And like I like all the Guardians of the Galaxy cast having their own spotlight.
I know what you
but
mean.
I feel like Thor's just gonna take it all.
I can see what you mean, but when I watched it again last night, they feed off each other.
I thought Drax's contribution, yet again, very little but very funny. He was just mixing it. I love the way he's very cheeky, isn't he, Drax?
Yeah.
He knows when he's stirring up something.
Yeah.
But you were saying, so how do we feel about the ending of Avengers Endgame?
So, I thought that the whole Captain America being old thing was very weak.
Naff.
Yeah, that wasn't even the last shot. The last shot was Captain America dancing with his girlfriend.
I like that. I think that was sweet, that bit, but the old man bit, I was like...
It was sweet, but to end Endgame with
that.
I know what you mean, but I think there's an enormous amount of love for Captain America in America.
No, I get it, but I just think, you know, it could have ended with all of them. It was the last Avengers film. Why did it have to end on him kissing his girlfriend?
I agree. I mean, one of the comments that's been said about this film is that it felt like a great ending to the Avengers series and the Marvel sort of universe for the 21 films we've had. But it wasn't necessarily a great movie. So, you know, some people say it was a great ending. And I mean, they had to tie, I mean, it's a very difficult job. They had to tie up so many narrative strands.
So much.
But, you know, the danger with that is that you end up tying...
what was so good about all of it was because if you try and explain it, it's a really confusing film. I was not confused at any point within the film.
When I try and rethink all of it, it confuses me with all the time travel and stuff. But when you're actually watching it,
they explain
it's just kind of
you go with it.
Yeah, they explain it really well. But I thought they did such a good job at keeping it clear, making us love the characters even more, giving us the joy of them all coming back, then the sadness of the odd ones leaving. And major ones as well. I mean, Black Widow, Iron Man, Captain America
are gone.
Pretty big darn.
They are no more.
Yeah.
They've been part of our pop culture for the last...
And Thanos is now actually dead.
And Thanos, well, yeah, oh God, don't even get me going on Thanos. But yeah, okay, so did we prefer it to Infinity War?
I preferred Infinity War.
I think I preferred Infinity War, and I'll tell you why I preferred Infinity War. I think I preferred the idea of being taken to the edge of a cliff and not knowing whether this was reversible. And that felt like, I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me very much of the early days of the Star Wars movies, where you'd be taken to the end of a film and you had 2 or 3 years to wait before you knew what the bloody hell happened to these great characters in space. And I thought Infinity War, albeit that it was only a year ago, allowed us for that year to really entertain.
It felt
like forever, and that's quite telling. And it allowed us to play with all sorts of possibilities. Whereas now with the Endgame, you know, so many possibilities have been confirmed. You know, little details like now, you know, the chatter is that Gamora now is alive again. So there are so many.
That's what I did notice the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many knowables now. So that in a sense, Marvel has to kind of re-kick up the sand and sort of make it all confused again for us. I've got to go on the whole process. So for me, you're right. I think Infinity War was the much preferable watch because it built you to a place of But interestingly, Endgame I thought did do a very good job of pulling it all together.
Yeah, I thought Endgame definitely had its weak things within the film, but as a whole, I thought it was... And it was just the Iron Man thing I'm never going to get over, so it's the standout film for me.
Oh, so what would you give it? What would you give it? You don't cry again, Matt.
And also, it was so funny. Basically, there's nothing at the end of the credits of this film. My friend went to go and see it and sat all the way to the end of the credits. There was nothing.
But guess what? There is apparently right at the end of the credits. There is a sound left by the sound designer, which is the first sound of a spark coming off the making of Iron Man's suit from the first film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Someone's tried to read into that. Is that the prospect of possibly Iron Man's suit being alive? But I don't think it is. Yeah.
I think
so what would you give it? What would you give it, Kiki?
Give it a 7.
Ooh, what? 7. That's quite low.
I loved it and everything, but again, for like lots of bits of it were really rushed.
There were a lot of narrative leapfrogs. They had to kind of leap over many gaps.
Yeah, Captain Marvel is
a disastrous
She wasn't in it enough to ruin it.
No, but she does
ruin it. But
no, she doesn't ruin it.
She...
But she creates more. She creates more questions than answers. I think Captain Marvel. What would you give it, Mads?
I would give it a 9.5, and the only reason it isn't a 10 is because of how upset I am by Iron Man dying. And the fact that it was not a perfect film, not my favourite Marvel film, but I've been so ready for this.
Yes.
I have to like it.
Yeah.
And I do like it. I just found that whole Iron Man situation absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I'm still bothered at how the film ended.
Right. with Captain America?
Yeah.
Okay. But I loved it, and it made me love all the characters even more than I possibly thought I could.
Yeah.
And it made me really love Ant-Man.
Oh.
It was really lovely seeing them all just mixed together properly.
Yes.
Yeah. Made me love Ant-Man so much more than I did.
Yeah. No, I agree. My favourite part of this whole film was seeing all of our sensational superheroes in ordinary human situations, feeling ordinary human things. Right down to, I really liked, though you could argue it was an indulgence, I thought it was really nicely done, the chat between Iron Man and his father. Quibbles aside around all that stuff, I do think Captain Marvel presents a real problem for them, and I think it's like they've opened a Pandora's box, let her out, and they don't know where to put her now.
No, but I get that it wasn't a perfect film, but you can't say it wasn't emotional, and
it was a huge emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. It's a massive deal.
It's a massive deal. And I will give this film 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, I was low then.
You were really low.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.